99 problems, but we're only gonna cover 10. Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake of robertoblake.com helping you create something awesome today. So this video is gonna be a little longer because we're gonna be talking about the 10 biggest problems on the YouTube platform and how I think we could actually fix them and make YouTube great again. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Number 1, the complex tools in the YouTube dashboard. The complicated tools in the YouTube dashboard are largely ignored by the far majority of creators because I think a lot of us forget that the majority of the people on this platform are very young creators, and a lot of them get frustrated because they don't bother to learn the tools in the platform and a lot of it goes over their head. I think that by implementing video tutorials directly into the YouTube dashboard instead of making people hunt down how-to videos or go to the YouTube help or the YouTube creator forums to get this information, some of the most basic things in YouTube should already have a built-in tutorial that somebody could click on to understand more instead of just that little info card button that doesn't really tell them a lot of stuff that's really actionable or helpful. And again, most of the words go over their heads. It is marketing or program speak, and it's just too technical for them. A great example of software that's done this really well is Adobe. Adobe, when you launch any of the new Creative Cloud tools, has a video tutorial around any tool that you can think of and how to actually use it in a meaningful way. I think if YouTube did this with short videos or animated videos directly in the YouTube dashboard, it would go a long way to educating a lot more creators and helping them optimize their content and get the most out of their YouTube channel, because most of them, whenever I'm talking to people, they don't understand what's even there. I just really believe that that would help and would be a great solution for the far majority of creators, especially people who are younger or people who are not tech savvy. Issue number 2, the YouTube subscriber box on the YouTube homepage. I think the YouTube sub box on the homepage, for many of us, just feels broken. It just feels like a disaster. And it's because the algorithm is recommending things that ultimately favor YouTube a lot or might be based on some of our behavior in the last 24 hours, but is not reflective of the channels that we subscribe to and that we like the most. So I would say that YouTube should prioritize just going ahead and giving us content from the channels that we actually subscribe to, and then their recommendations could be another tab. Because right now, it's the opposite. It's what YouTube recommends as priority, and then it's what we chose to subscribe to. And it should be the reverse. It should be what we chose to subscribe to, and then what YouTube recommends. And I think that's an easy enough change to roll back and to fix right now. I think a lot of us will be happier if they did that. Number 3. This one means more to some of you than it does to me because I absolutely believe in meritocracy. I believe if you're good enough and you work hard enough, the marketplace rewards your victories, but a lot of you feel that YouTube is very much the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and I can understand that argument, so I've come up with a compromise. Highlighting small YouTube channels on the rise. Not highlighting small YouTubers, not highlighting small YouTubers that pour hours upon hours into their content and don't go anywhere. Small YouTubers on the rise. Meaning that if we're subscribed to more videos in a particular genre or category, or a lot of videos in a genre and category, YouTube could highlight for us and recommend to us more videos. If we're watching a lot of how-to or tech videos or a lot of fitness videos, YouTube could say, okay, you watch a lot of videos in this category. Here are some videos from creators in this category that are small but are doing well. They're on the rise. They're getting a lot of views. They're getting a lot of subscribers. They have a really good view to sub ratio. It should use the algorithm to decide who's performing well as a small YouTuber, and then it should highlight those channels that are growing in a genre that we care about, a genre that we subscribe to a lot of channels in. That would make sense. And so that's my fair compromise. It's not what the majority of you want, but I think that's fair because I still believe you actually have to have talent, you have to actually work hard, and you have to actually be doing quality content in order to succeed in this platform. And I think just highlighting small channels for the sake of highlighting small channels is unfair, and I don't think it would work, and I don't think people would watch it. So that's my answer. Problem number 4, music copyright. I decided to separate copyright into a couple of different problems because I think it's a huge problem and I think it has a lot of moving parts. Music copyright in particular, I think, is a solvable problem in a couple of ways. I think YouTube needs to make a deal with the music industry in the way that Apple did in terms of some licensing and some stuff. And I think that you should be able to use copyright music in your videos without it immediately being snatched by the music companies. I think an appropriate compensation is maybe 10 to 20% revenue generate from that particular video that uses that music, and maybe it could be a sliding scale of 10 to 20% based on how much of the music is used in the duration of the video. I think that would be appropriate. I think the other answer is for YouTube to acquire SoundCloud. I will make another video about this because I think it's a business decision that YouTube should make, is actually just buy out SoundCloud, combine YouTube Music with SoundCloud as a platform, encourage indie artists, and make SoundCloud truly the YouTube of music, make it the YouTube platform for music. And I think with indie artists being able to monetize their music in the same way that we monetize with ads here on YouTube, through that platform, it'll encourage more people to get into music and make music, and it'll also mean that they can directly profit by licensing their indie music directly to YouTube creators because they're sharing a platform. This will also put pressure on the traditional music industry and make them play ball. So maybe you acquire SoundCloud first, YouTube, and then you go and you make a deal with the music industry, because they'll be under pressure, because with musicians already being able to put their music up in iTunes for sale, in Spotify, and make direct deals, and in Google Play without having to get a record deal, if indie artists in SoundCloud can get distribution in YouTube for their music, get ad revenue, and get licensing deals from content creators like me and Casey Neistat and Gary Vaynerchuk and whoever just wants to use cool background music, and we pay out that royalty directly to the creators and split it with YouTube instead of a record label, well, that changes the paradigm of music a lot more in the favor of creators and not companies, and that gets very interesting, and that creates leverage. So YouTube, if you're watching this video, and I hope you are, acquire SoundCloud and pour the pressure on, turn up the heat. It'll be better for all of us, and then we can deal with this copyright issue. Number 5, copyright and fair use on videos that use content from other videos, whether it's television or movies or from video games. So this one is a biggie for a lot of you out there as YouTubers, especially small YouTubers, because this might be the easiest content for you to make, at least in your mind for whatever reason. I don't really believe that, but what have you, fine. Okay, I think that you make a similar deal with the television and the film industry and the video game industry in terms of setting a deal in place where they get 10 to 20% of the revenues from videos that use their copyrighted material. That way everybody's getting a piece of the pie, and then you're free to use it in that way. But I also think that it should, for fair use purposes, for them not to claim the entire thing and all the revenue, have a cap limit on how much of the video content you're able to use. And I think the algorithm can help with that. And I think an appropriate amount is 10 seconds of consecutive footage from a single source for every one video, which means that if it's an episode of Batman the Animated Series, you can only use 10 seconds from that one particular episode cumulatively in a 60-second window back to back of your video content, and then you'd have to use, another episode, so on and so forth, for it to be fair use. I think that that's fair. I think that's appropriate. I think that gives you a lot of flexibility. So I think that those things matter in terms of television and films, and I think everybody wins, and that could be fair use. And it could be a sliding scale. Maybe if you use a little bit more than that, instead of 10%, it becomes 20, but not the whole enchilada of your video. So I think that everybody makes money that way. Stuff gets promoted, it's free advertising, and I think that everybody wins. With games, I would say we could go in a similar direction, or we can, put it in a queue. And I just really think that game developers and gaming companies like Nintendo should just let this slide, because it's free marketing for them, and it gets more people interested in the game. I could make a different argument for television and film, but for video games, they just really need to let it go. That's my answer. That's the best one I've got. Problem number 6, and this is another copyright issue, the 3 strikes copyright rule. My answer is to get rid of it. The 3 strikes copyright rule was an appeasement to the entertainment industry, and they understand YouTube now. YouTube is not young anymore. YouTube is a decade old. It's grown up, it's getting acne, it's gonna ask out its first date, okay? So, now that YouTube is mature and people understand that it's not going away and that we're in this new content sharing economy, the entertainment industry in general needs to play ball, needs to understand what this means for the future, understand that people like me are going to get older and be in positions to start influencing these things more in legislation in the near future. And since we grew up with the platform, we're probably going to vote in favor of things that aren't as favorable to corporations and more toward creators. So I think that that's coming, and I think they need to get on board and position now. And so I think YouTube is in a great position of leverage to just throw out the copyright strikes rule altogether. As far as the 3 strikes rule, throw it out. It's already being abused. It's being abused by creators. It's being abused by companies wrongly. And it seems like it's a lot of work on YouTube's part. And the thing is, the copyright ID system already is making corporations a crap ton of money without them hiring additional staff. YouTube put out some information on this. It's been talked about by other YouTubers like Philip DeFranco, and I believe Hank Green talked about it at one point. So I just feel that copyright ID is already doing a great job making corporations money. So we don't need the 3 strikes rule. That was an appeasement, and it needs to go. They're already able to take down and flag individual videos and get them removed. They shouldn't have the ability to take down an entire channel. YouTube, 3 strikes needs to get out of here, period. Number 7, multi-channel networks, MCNs, and sometimes they take advantage of small YouTubers. What can we do about this? Well, I have mixed feelings about multi-channel networks. I'm going to do that in its own video, but I believe that what YouTube should do is it should step in. YouTube usually doesn't act as an intermediary between multi-channel networks and creators. They make their own private backdoor deal. I don't like this. I think that YouTube should regulate multi-channel networks. I think that multi-channel networks should have a revenue cap in terms of the percentage they're able to get from a creator in exchange for the services that they provide, and I believe that cap should be 25 to 30%. Creators already have a 55-45 revenue split with YouTube. I don't think that multi-channel networks should be allowed to go up to another 50% or more with those creators. I think that it should be lower, and the creators should keep the far majority of their money. And so I think YouTube needs to regulate that. I also think YouTube needs to regulate that so that if multi-channel networks are not doing their job and not honoring the agreements or the contracts that they promised to, that YouTube can get punitive with them. And so I actually want YouTube to regulate multi-channel networks. That might be controversial to a lot of people, but it's YouTube's platform, and I think that they should step in and that they should have creators back here. That's my opinion. Speaking of having creators back, that brings us to number 8, legal issues with YouTube creators. I think that there are not enough things in place, especially for small YouTube channels or YouTube channels within the YouTube middle class of 50 to like 300,000 subscribers. Those channels, there's like no legal protection for those. And those channels don't necessarily make enough money for their own legal protection a lot of the times, besides business insurance and liability insurance, if they can even afford that. And smaller channels, forget about it. So what I would propose is an opt-in policy where YouTubers could voluntarily give up 5% of their revenue is probably the appropriate amount, almost kind of like a tax, mind you. But what happens is all of our revenue, regardless of how many subscribers or how much revenue we make, gets pooled into the YouTube Legal Defense Fund. And so if we're donating money to that, if we're donating 5% of our YouTube revenue toward that out of our advertising revenue, then we automatically are covered under the protections of the pool, which means that if we have a legal issue, we just bring it to YouTube's attention, and then the money is there at any given time for a creator to be able to mount any kind of legal defense or seek legal counsel and get advice. This means that YouTube doesn't have to come out of pocket up front, although I would make the argument that they should initially invest some cash in this pool. I think that they should float at least maybe 1 or 2 million to have the pool started with something. And then if they take 5% of revenue from all creators that volunteer for it, meaning that's not mandatory, although if it was, it would mean all creators are perpetually protected by default, and we're just giving 5% of our revenue up front, I think that that would be okay. I just know that creators love choices and they don't love being mandated into things. So I would say if we make it optional, maybe that's more comfortable for people. Personally, I think it would be in our best interest for it to be mandated, and then we're just all protected, because it seems like YouTubers have a target on their back now, especially if they're starting to get successful in terms of legal issues. So I think having that protection in place, having a buffer between us and someone who wants to take advantage of us, is a good thing. And if YouTube can provide that, I think this is a way that puts some of the responsibility on us financially, and just gives us that opportunity. And then it's all of us contributing it together as a community. I think that also makes us less inclined to attack each other. So I think that that would be a good thing. So either make it voluntary or don't. I just think having it there is a good idea. I'd love to know you guys' thoughts on this. YouTube Legal Defense Fund. Number 9, the YouTube community guidelines and the comment section. The YouTube community guidelines need to be less vague, and I think that every point of the YouTube community guidelines should have a 5 to 6 minute video attached to it. I also believe that there should be probably some kind of live Q&A workshop that YouTube does remotely that everyone can tune into once a month. That means that all new YouTube creators could get into this and could ask questions and be told directly by a human being about the policy, and there's also videos for them to reference. I think that this makes sense, and I think YouTube in general should do monthly live webinar style things that any and all creators can tune into and ask a live Q&A every single month. I think a YouTube live Q&A for the YouTube community every single month eliminates a lot of problems, a lot of questions, and I think every time that YouTube changes a policy or adds a new system or a new program, that they should do a live Q&A. And that, again, they should continue to do these things once a month to give people the opportunity to hear it from YouTube themselves. I think that that's better community management. Also, by default, all profanity in comments in YouTube should automatically go to a spam filter unless a creator checks a box that says not to do that and lets them customize. I think that, because we can customize our filters, but I think that by default, all profanity should immediately go to the spam filter from day one without you having to do anything, and you have to check that box off in order to let the profanity through. I think that that's the right thing to do. 110% believe that. Disagree if you want. And number 10, which is probably everyone's favorite, the issues with YouTube demonetization and how we can approach that in a more fair way. I think the more fair approach to dealing with YouTube monetization, having thought about an actual fix for what a lot of creators are concerned about, is I think that creators who have explicit or graphic content or controversial content should be able to check a box to self-identify. What they should do for those individual videos, if they're going to self-identify by checking that box, instead of it automatically demonetizing the video via the algorithm, it can now bypass the algorithm and it can put them into an opt-in where advertisers have already opted in to say, yes, it's okay for me to pay for ads with explicit content over on the Google AdWords side. If with the AdWords for video, advertisers have already said that, yeah, I'm cool with controversial or graphic content, which may include the following bucket list, then I think that then it should prioritize distributing ads from those advertisers on those channels that have self-identified, and then that will bypass the algorithm. If you don't self-identify, then I think you should be caught by the algorithm, and then you have to go into the appeal process. So that is my answer in a nutshell for YouTube demonetization as a whole. And so now all the YouTube drama channels can stop whining, the YouTube channels that do news can stop whining, the YouTube commentators can stop, and anybody who wants to do explicit content can now do it and stop complaining about censorship that doesn't exist. They can actually look up a country or a circumstance where actual censorship applies, and they can quit crying now because we have an answer for it. Anyway, that is how I think we make YouTube great again. That is how I think we solve the 10 biggest problems in YouTube, what those 10 biggest problems are, and what we could do about it as far as YouTube as a platform taking these suggestions to heart, which I don't know if they will. Anyway, I'd actually love to know what you guys think about each of these points in the comment section. What do you like? What are your favorites? What do you disagree with me on? Let me know. Also, if we can get 1,000 likes on this particular video, I will make 10 videos. I will make a video going more in depth on each one of these problems and things that we can do about it, workarounds and solutions that might already exist. So if that's something you guys are interested in, if you need help with these things, I'd love to make that content. So let's go ahead and get 1,000 likes on this video. Also, make sure you're sharing it with other YouTubers who have ever encountered these kind of problems on the platform, because it's important for us to just get a little more educated about these things. Anyway, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other awesome content on the channel. YouTube tip videos are usually on Fridays. As always, you guys, thanks so very much for watching, and don't forget, create something awesome today, especially if you're here on the YouTube platform.